I've been using the Mangmi Pocket Max for a little over a week now. And initially, I almost didn't purchase it because, like many, I thought for a Snapdragon 865, this might not be the best price to performance. However, now that I've been using this thing, I've got to say I'm glad I did. And while the increased price to 219 or whatever they're going to land on might eventually be a little too much for your pocket, I gotta say that I've come away unexpectedly playing this handheld a lot more than I expected. This handheld is very well designed, and one of the reasons why I like this handheld so much, besides its beautiful, bright, big screen, its comfortable ergonomics, is the replaceable buttons. Now, yes, I am a sucker for micro switches. You may not be. And while you have to pay extra now for the micro switches, I like that option. So let's dive in and take a look at this beautiful, big, and bold handheld from Mangmi, their second. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. But let's get into it and let's talk about why I think this is actually still a very good handheld, despite the increasing decision on price.
Oh, yes, that is overpriced. Would you like to see a better option? Yeah, sure. Great. Right this way.
Sure, that's what they'll tell you, that you should buy the other handheld because it's a better value. But is that always true? Well, today we're going to explore that as we look at the Mangmi Pocket Max, a handheld that launched right as AYN also reduced the price of their base portal to $249, making this a more complicated purchase. But let's dive right in and find out, should that guy in that electronics store, should he buy the Mangmi that he brought in, or should he go for the AYN portal? All right. So, as always, we'll start with the box. And the box here is pretty nice. They do a good job. They show the modules that are like being pulled out of the top of it, which is pretty nice. They got this nice orange color going on as a theme. On the sides of the box, we have the Mangmi Pocket Max on each side. And not a lot else going on the sides of this. Very minimalist, but that's okay because I like stylish minimalist sort of scenarios. Moving to the bottom of it, and we do have our serial number, our UPC code, and the Mangmi Pocket Max. Now this comes in a single configuration, which might be a little surprising, but I guess it's good to keep uniformity for everybody. So if you pick this up, you're going to have the same specs as everybody else, unlike many handhelds now that are released with different sort of options. Now, one of the big things about this, which people said could have helped keep the cost down, is the removable buttons and D-pad. And I really like that. And it comes in a little case here like this separately. Now, you will have to pay for this separate now. I did receive this as part of the pre-order. So the first orders got this included for that $199 price, which is fantastic. Now at $219, this is going to set you back another, I think, 25 bucks for it. To do it, it's a nice little package. It has them in here. And so if you swap out, you can put your old ones in here, as you can see here. Opening the box, and the first thing we have is this nice little card. So a nice little Mangmi card here, Pocket Max. It shows the the handheld on it, has the outline of it. That's pretty nice. We'll move the handheld out of the way, and they have nice foam padding here to protect it. They did a good job with the packaging. I think it's nice. And below that, we do have two boxes. One says manual, and the other says cable. So we have the manual and cable there that are listed. and it is a USB C to C cable, which I'm happy to see that for. That is really nice, so I do like that. But let's get this all packaged up because we definitely want to take a look at the handheld, which, like the Ion Neo Pocket Evo and the AYN Portal, Odin 2 Portal, is a 7-inch handheld with a big, beautiful OLED screen, 144 hertz in this case, running the Snapdragon 865, which is less powerful than either the Evo or the Portal. And yes, first impressions on picking this guy up is it has a really nice ergonomic to it. I wasn't sure looking at it online with the shape how I'd feel about it, but when I first picked up the Odin 2 Portal, I had purchased the grip and it became immediately clear to me that the grip would make that a lot better. And so I never really liked holding the Portal without the grip. However, immediately holding this guy, I have no problem holding it with no grip. It is very comfortable. It feels nice. Now the plastic feels really good. I'd say it feels better than the Air X, and that handheld was already impressive at the price point they were selling that for. It's got a nice distribution of weight to it. What I liked about the Portal and the Evo was the same thing, this nice big screen. And when you have these good ergonomics with either a grip or not, it distributes that screen in the middle and makes it nice and comfortable to hold. This is an excellent handheld to hold for the couch. I would say that overall between this and the Portal, it is much better to hold with the Portal with no grip, but with the grip with the Portal, it's very similar. But I like less, and so not having to put a grip on here I think is a big advantage. The other thing that I want to mention here is while I love these modules that you can swap out, I had a heck of a time getting these modules out. I'll try to show on the camera here, but there is a little bitty divot on the X and B to where you can put your thumbnails in your fingernail to help pull this out. And initially, I had to ask my wife to help me with it because I couldn't figure it out. But there is just a little divot. It works much better with the AYBX button set than the D-pad. The D-pad, I had a lot more trouble gripping those little divots to pull it out. Now, once you learn how to do this, then it's not that big of a deal. But I do wish there was maybe a button to pop them out, to spring them out. That would have costed more. So maybe this was a solution to keep the price down. But do know that swapping them out takes a little practice, but once you get it, it's not so bad. Now, testing the D-pad and the buttons, they are fine. The ones that come with it are your rubber membrane. They have a nice little travel distance to them. I like them fine. But what I really want to focus on this review is the upgraded, or what I call upgraded, D-pad and the buttons with the micro switches. So if you splurge for that, I want you to know experience here. These micro switches are very quiet. They feel great. They feel fantastic. Now, you may not be a fan of micro switches, but I am. And so for me, I love the way these feel. Also on the D-pad, the same thing. Now, I can't use the ones that came with it. I tried to go back for this review and tried using it, but once for me, I'm in the micro switch environment. I just love it. It's one of the things I loved about the Unicorn with its micro switch buttons. So I'm a big fan of micro switch buttons, and these are really good. They drop in. They're using pogo pin connectors, which could have long-term consequences. But for right now, drop them in. They connect quickly. I had no problem with it. Only removing it again was the only issue I'd say that really caused me a little bit of stress here. Moving on to the sticks, and that's another highlight of this. These huge full-size sticks are really, really nice. I gotta say these sticks are great. They're in a good position with the balance of holding this overall. They feel nice. They're easy to use and access, and they have a great range to them. As far as using them with gaming, I didn't have any issues in calibrating them. I think it was really good from the factory the way they are. They feel nice. They're definitely a highlight of this handheld. Moving on to the triggers, and we also have great, awesome triggers. I would say that these triggers are angled at a little bit different way than I'm used to, but I actually like it. The back triggers are nice and big. If you have large hands, and if I don't, you will like this quite a bit. It is really nice to hold this handheld. The ergonomics on it are just fantastic. Everything is accessible. The other thing is we do have 4 front buttons, 2 for home and menu, and then 2 for start and select. And these are equally pretty quiet. They're pretty quiet. They feel like micro switches as well. I'd say they're pretty nice. Looking at the back, we also have 2 additional buttons back here, just like the Portal or the Evo. And this button's also quiet. Everything on this, especially when you go and switch to the micro switches, is very quiet. So if you value quietness, I'd say that that's pretty good here. We got a nice large fan vent on the back with an exhaust on the top, and this little silver sort of lining there. Again, this is just a great handheld to hold. It feels comfortable. The only thing missing is that I really wish they had those extra buttons on the top, the RC and LC that we see on the competitor from Ioneo. That would have been nice to have this on here, but again, it's got a lot of buttons. Moving around the side of it, there's nothing on each side of it, and on the bottom we do have a centered USB port along with their SD card slot and a microphone jack. So we do have a microphone jack here, so that's really nice. Overall, my first impressions of this are very favorable. It feels great. It feels premium. It feels nice. At $199, no brainer. At $220, still think this is really good for an upgraded RP5, which is exactly what this is: a bigger OLED screen, a faster refresh rate, and a really, the same innards as it with 8 gigs of RAM. But let's get into my testing and turn this thing on and kind of use it a little bit, and I'll talk about my experience playing on it and what I found about the ecosystem. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the video, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about an awesome speaker. This AGM Magrock portable Bluetooth speaker that is IP67 waterproof, drop proof, and dust proof. Using Bluetooth, you can use this speaker just about anywhere. It also has a vibrant RGB light show to give it that nice effect that you look for. Best of all, this thing has a magnetic attachment design. And as you can see here, I use this to make my handheld sound glorious. Oh my God, my RG477M has never sounded better. Yes, that's right. This is small, pocketable, portable, and best of all, it comes in at under $50. You can pick one of these up for yourself by hitting the link in the description below. We want to thank Amazon for sending this over and having us take a look at it. Again, this is the AGM Magrock portable Bluetooth speaker, which could be a very good companion to all of your precious handhelds. Back to the show. All right, so turning this on, we're greeted with a pretty easy to use setup process from Mangmi. Now, we saw what they did with the original, the Air Mini or Air X. And so they've got already a pretty good ecosystem with this. Now, this is Android, so I'm not going into this on the Android guide, but I found that setting this up was very similar to any other Android that I've been setting up recently, particularly anything with the Snapdragon line. It's pretty similar here. This screen is gorgeous. That's the first thing I noticed, is how bright this screen gets. It's rated at 800 nits, and I'd say what does get there very bright. It is just a beautiful big OLED panel running at up to 144 hertz. Now, one of the things they put in the software is they do have this sidebar, which is kind of like the Ioneo sort of version that Ioneo has, but Ioneo has that special button to get to it, and I kind of wish Mangmi would develop some sort of button. Maybe there's some reason they can't do it like that, some kind of copyright or IP, intellectual property. But going into this, you do have a bunch of useful options, much like the Ioneo button, including where you can change the power saving, the balance, performance, streaming. You can adjust the fan, and you can also adjust the refresh rate. Now, for most of use of this, I left it on 120 hertz because I think 144 hertz is overkill for most of what you're playing on this. And so for me, 120 hertz just made sense. Also, use a little bit less battery running at 120 hertz. But you can also do 90 and 60, which I think is fantastic. Playing games on this is what you would expect from the Retroid Pocket 5 or the Retroid Pocket Flip 2. The Snapdragon 865 is a very capable CPU that can play up through PS2 and GameCube and even some Nintendo Secret Console. Now, PS2 and GameCube is going to be hit or miss depending on what level of upscaling you want to do, but even something demanding like Jack 3 can squeeze by if you lower the resolution on it. Now, if you want true full PS2 performance, you really need to bump up to that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 that you find in the Odin Portal. But this is kind of why some people were disappointed in this CPU, because you're not going to get the full scale of PS2 and GameCube. But I think for most games, especially the most popular games, it's going to play those well enough. Sure, there's going to be some outliers that are difficult to run, but overall pretty good. But the other thing where this thing really shines is in streaming. I was able to set up Apollo and Artemis and use it and stream from my PC, which has a Radeon 7900 XT, a very high-end GPU. And so I could stream games locally on it, and I found that it worked very well. Also, things like Game Native are also available, which can do a lot of stuff with the Snapdragon 865, but keep your expectations tempered. This is really going to excel a lot more when you're using this for a local streaming solution. You also can do things like Xbox Live, Xbox streaming, Cloud app, GeForce Now, other things like that. It's a big, beautiful screen. And don't forget Android native gaming, which is also beautiful here. The Snapdragon 865 also supports Linux. And while I have not seen a build of Rocknix for this yet, I'm very hopeful that Rocknix will come to this, giving you the ability to dual boot, which is something that I found really to be great. And what I'm using on my Flip 2, the Rocknix build for that. So hopefully we will get Linux on this and eventually. But let's wrap up my overall impressions, talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, and whether or not this is a handheld I think you should purchase. So, the real question is, should you buy this? And I think that this is a very worthy competitor. I think that Mangmi has been judged based purely on the fact that the Odin 2 Portal base unit was sold at such a deep discount. Now, if you are someone like me that values great controls, especially Microswitches, you're not getting that on the Odin 2 Portal. And the buttons on the Odin 2 Portal are okay, acceptable, but they're not my preferred or the best buttons. The D-pad is a great D-pad, but I think for me, the ability to be able to switch these out and use the more premium micro switches does make this a okay trade-off against the power of the Snapdragon 865 versus an 8 Gen 2. Now, if you were only going to get one, it really depends on, do you want more better precise control or do you want more power? Because the truth is, an 8 Gen 2 is going to do nearly double what the 865 can do as far as benchmarks go. And at $250 versus $220, spending $30 more on either some micro switches or a double the power, for most people, they're going to go for double the power. I, however, also would say you have to get the grip for the Odin 2 Portal really to get that comfortability. So for me, holding this, playing this with those upgraded buttons, and not needing a grip is overall a better offshoot than having more power with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Now, perhaps that's because I have an Odin 3 and I have a lot more power as well as a Conquer Pocket Fit. But if I were going to be limited to only one device and I had to choose between this and the Odin 2 Portal, I think right now I'm going with this because I just like how comfortable this is to hold. The screen is gorgeous, and while the Odin 2 Portal screen was gorgeous as well, this one is just really bright and clear. It is very well made. Yes, it has a glass front. I kind of don't like that, and they could have saved a little bit of money there. But I like that they have the 3 colorways. And again, these replaceable buttons, while many may see this as a gimmick, I see this as a benefit because I like being able to upgrade the buttons very simply by ordering another set. Not to mention for early backers, we got a heck of a deal getting this at $199. There's no doubt at $199 with the free buttons, this is a great deal. But money aside, It is a great product. The company has proven this is the second release that I think is been shipped on time. I haven't heard problems with shipping. It is really well done. And there are some of you still waiting on those $249 portals. So overall, I do recommend the Mangmi Pocket Max. I think it's a great handheld. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And yes, it may not have the power of some of its competitors, but it's comfortable, it's beautiful, it's bright, and it has some great upgraded buttons that are available to purchase. So let me know what you think. I want to hear from you. Is this, priced appropriately? Do you think it's value for the money? Leave me a comment. Anyways, remember to hug your loved ones and love your hugged ones because tomorrow is never promised. See you next time, Deadheads. Dead Fred out.